Welcome. My name is Douglas Getz, and you've found your way to the Diving and Thriving podcast. Here, we have enlightening conversations about how we can better navigate this sometimes crazy world we live in. From refreshing spiritual perspectives to tips about personal growth, the focus here is about how we can become better human beings. So I'd like to thank you for being here today, and I hope you enjoy this episode. All right.
What's up, Doug?
Welcome, Tom. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm happy to finally get you on the Diving and Thriving podcast.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to build this platform and have it be a space for people to have really cool, interesting conversations that are valuable to other people.
Yeah. I hope my craziness, my crazy life is someone can find it of interest and value. So I guess that's the hope. Yep.
Yeah, man. And it's funny. You do have a bit of a crazy life. I never really looked at it like that, but you're definitely not traditional yourself. Is that fair to say?
I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Or a little bit. You do things differently.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And I know people who are here in the creative space, like writers and artists, because I know you've been a writer. How many years have you been a writer for?
Going on my 5th year here. So I was in business before I started writing, and total failure there. Totally had no idea what I was doing, and but I guess that's what I go into everything. I just which maybe is a bad habit sometimes, going in blindly without planning. But then I started writing about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. That's cool, man. And what led you to get into writing? Was it always a passion of yours, or was it something that you just discovered out of the blue?
I did not write a page of my own stuff when I was in high school or going to our school, Raritan Valley. It took completely getting on my own, right? Getting out of all the school obligations. I didn't graduate, and it just took me to completely. I kind of was fiercely looking for what I wanted to do, because I have that business-ness, I guess if you want to call it, in me, but I knew there was something missing. I think it really it's derived when I first started my LLC, and I tried to, I was putting up content. I learned that lesson. I learned one good lesson is content is king with to build your business up.
Yeah.
And I had this, I think at one point I was going down the motivational speaker route or something. And that didn't work out either, but I was, instead of doing motivational stuff, which was, I kind of got my content all mixed up, and I started writing stories. And I honestly didn't, I was just writing on every day after I got done with client work and stuff, and from 9 to 5 I was picking up the phone, cold calling people, and just doing all that business stuff. And then from 5 to 9 or 10 I just got on my laptop. I found a local cafe, and I just started writing posts and stories about my journeys through town. I didn't have a car, and I went out at night a lot, talk to the people on the streets. And, I met some really interesting people, really interesting stories, and I just felt like I needed to share them. And again, I didn't know I wasn't, now I'm like, when people ask me, like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a writer. But before, I'm like, oh, I have business, but I was writing so much, writing every day. And I think it was 7 or 8 months into my business that I'm like, what? I love this stuff. Like, I love this. Like,
yeah.
What is it? Like, so I kind of sat down. I kind of went through what was it called? Not roadblock, but like a month's period where I hit like a solid wall. Like, and I was kind of depressed for a while, and I got out of it like 3 or 4 weeks later and started producing again for my business. And I made a terrible business deal, and that's when everything kind of went downhill. But the one thing I had when I lost my business was my writing. And I think during that was probably like the darkest time, if you want to call it. I didn't really, I got kicked out of my place, my apartment I was in. But I guess what kept me kind of level-headed was my writing. And I just kind of committed to myself that, I'm a writer, and, I got to pursue this. And whatever it takes. I had no idea what it took. I knew, kind of like yourself, just you got to keep working, kind of, I still kept that content is king mindset. But I just wrote every day and read a lot. My reading never was, still working on my reading, but I read a lot more, and I guess that's what kept it constant. It started from when I really got on my own, really got my own place, or not my own place. I mean, I have my own place, but it was really just away from all this school, any obligations. It's just me, myself, and I, just to think, all right, got a business. All right, boom, got that idea. And, now it's all on me, and I got to figure it out. So when that happened, didn't have anyone to answer to. I think that's really when it really happened, and I figured out that, writing is what I want to do.
Yeah. That's cool. It sounds like you slowly uncovered your passion for writing. You started your business ventures, and then that led into writing, and then you found that you liked it so much that you stuck with it, and that's cool. And it's really cool. How are you? Do you like not having anyone above you telling you, like, we need this piece, or like, I'm sure you work with clients, but versus like having a boss tell you that, is there a difference there?
There is, and like, granted, I've had great bosses, managers, and I've learned a lot from them, and I think that's why I'm able to be in the freelance, because you gotta be your own boss per se. And many, I mean, you're your own boss in this podcast, and but I was in the military for a short stint before I got medically discharged.
Where are you?
And I love
what branch?
The National Guard, Army National Guard.
Cool.
But I say that, I bring that up because I love, the good sergeants. I love the good, captains, lieutenants, my platoon leaders, and I love a good leader. I love being under good leaders.
Yeah.
I love being taught to, where to go. I joined the infantry. I want to be, I'm a grunt, I want to be on the front lines, just
Yeah.
write up the right plan, and I'll do whatever you say, just,
Yeah.
But you don't find that many good bosses, it's hard to find that. And, I've had terrible bosses, absolutely terrible bosses, and like bosses that I'm just like, are you kidding? Like in my head, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, are you really not gonna, and so it's cool to be, on your, I've led, you were, the college stuff, but it's cool to lead teams, but when you're leading yourself and you have clients you have to answer to, right? I mean, they're really the boss at that point, but it's at the same time, you're a private contractor and what I do, so I do have something to say too. So it's a good balance right there, but it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. Like, you got to be tough on yourself a lot, and it's a challenge. It's a big challenge, but it's something you always have to be developing and learning. I hope that answered your question.
No, that's great. And honestly, like, I was a big fan of what you said about the leadership aspect, about following a good leader, because like you said, like, sometimes it's hard to find good leaders to follow, or people that you really admire, or who really know what they're doing, doesn't bring into much question like how things are going about. And if it does bring into question, they have answers for why things are going a certain way, and they actually have good answers, not just because I said so. Something else that you would hear from like a parent who doesn't have time to explain something, but that's cool to hear. It's having good leaders is big. And it's funny, like at our college, we both went to Raritan Valley Community College. They even had like a leadership seminar, or a leadership series. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Did they have that when you were president? You were president of student government. Well, yeah, I had to throw that in there. I wanted everybody to know that.
We had the leadership series, and those were really important stuff, and things that aren't really promoted, like, when you go to college, it's get the degree, it's go to your classes. This isn't on the pamphlet of the college, so it's kind of hidden, within like the people that are really trying to, want a little more out of the college experience, I guess, aren't just there for the degree, and all that stuff is so important. And obviously, we had some good leaders, and Russell was a great leader, and Alicia was a great leader. Russell
Barefoot, Alicia Walker, both in the student life department. They were fantastic, honestly. Like, I learned so much from them in just how to go about doing things. Especially like going about doing things within the system. Because like when you do it like at a school, they have rules on how long, like time frames for things to be done, like guidelines, and a whole bunch of stuff that you have to navigate. But the leadership series was special in its own right, because I don't know who you were able to bring in when you were at the college, but I remember we brought in some fantastic people, and we hosted one event called which was a women in business panel, and we had 4 like really intelligent, really on their game, like women from a couple different industries. And it was some guy came up to me, it was like a week later. We saw him at a picnic at the college, and he said, "That was one of the best events I've ever been to." And I said, "Really?" he said, yeah, do you have that recorded? I want to show my niece. And I was like, yes, the college records them. And I sent him the link.
Yeah.
So, like you said, yeah, it pretty much is. It's a little bit behind the scenes. Like, you can see it as you walk past the college billboards and it says, come to this, like, leadership seminar or something. But it is behind the scenes where, like, you have to go out of your way to go take advantage of it. And for me, I found that the most that I got out of college was outside the classroom. Like, I loved being in the classroom, and I picked a communications major, so it was something that was of interest to me, and I enjoyed it, and I liked the teachers. But I was never a fan of taking tests or writing essays. Never a fan. Like, I would joke that I loved going to school, but I hated going to class.
Yeah, no, I mean, real quick, I do have to backtrack a little bit. I did not run the leadership series. The leadership series was an entity of student government, and actually David Gibbs, my good friend, vice president, he was vice president at the time. He spearheaded that effort. And I think we had one of our biggest growth years under him, because he really just, went the extra mile in developing that. And he was a leader in that series, bringing in all those people. And, he brought a lot of people into the student government office. And, the people he brought in, I think really made a huge impact on the students that went to it, and that were fortunate enough to, hear about it, go to it. And, again, he spearheaded that effort and really did a great job there.
That's great, honestly. That's really great. Like, the way I got involved with it, I joined an honor society that they started on campus that was new, called the NSLS, which was the National Society of Leadership and Success. And then toward the end, after you completed your requirements, my friend and I, Kenneth Cruz, who's actually going to be on the podcast tomorrow, him and I decided we wanted to run for president and vice president. And we got some other people who wanted to be members, and we all ran unopposed because it was like a brand new organization, so we were just happy to have a full team. But then I got asked one day if I wanted to help coordinate this leadership series, because the last event wasn't coming together because one of the students was too overworked, and then the other couldn't do it all by herself. So myself and another girl stepped in and helped put on the event. So that's how I got into it. But I've realized how valuable listening to other people who were leaders in their own industry really was.
Yeah, no, that's the key, right? If you don't mind chiming in here.
Yeah.
I think if you're, talking about like whatever industry, whoever's listening to this, and you're in a different industry than me, and whatever industry it is, though, you got to find the leaders in that industry. And for my case, I'm always looking at writers and, what they're doing, how they're able to produce at the level they are. I mean, I think there's a ongoing war with writers of how to, become and find your voice with writing. I mean, I did take like the route of just kind of going on my own for a while. I didn't really look at other writers. I didn't, try to read any writing books. And then I think my writing really took a better turn is when I did start listening to other people, other writers, and how they're doing it, what their strategies are. And I think, and again, the war is like, hey, you don't need to, watch these videos. Like, I've had other writer friends like, it's all about just doing it yourself. It's like, you got to find your own unique voice. I'm like, well, I already have my voice, but I want to be better. I want to, like, I know I'm not the best writer, and other people have done it before me. And who am I to say I'm the best that I can be, because I'm not. And I think that's what it is, just constantly wanting to improve and not putting that down. So, but the leadership series going back to is like, that's just the general, like, that's for all industries, all students, whatever your major was, whatever you're doing, come there, apply whatever you learn and whatever you go in your classroom, and then beyond. In my case, I'm able to apply some of those things to my freelance work and working in business, and with all like the interesting personalities in my industry I'm able to work with. So yeah, definitely a cool thing. Cool that you brought that up too.
Yeah, and what I love about that is that, like, the advice that you would get from that series and like other talks that were put on, because there's a lot of talks that are put on, whether like the Chamber of Commerce puts it on. Like I went to one from the Hunterdon County Chamber of Commerce. You get a lot out of them. Like, bring a notepad, you take your notes, and that advice that they give you pretty much works for a majority of industries. Like, and a lot of it is really self-improvement. It's becoming a better person, a better leader yourself, so that you're less challenged by like adversity when it comes up. You're more prepared. You've practiced, or you can overcome things easier. And on top of it, from going to these seminars, you can make some great connections. Like, I've made some really great connections through these seminars, and one gentleman I ended up being his intern from. Yeah, a gentleman named Frank Abreu. I'm gonna aim to get him on the podcast at some time. But I ended up being his intern after I heard him speak, and I was like, wow, this guy's good. And I went up and I talked to him for a little bit. I was like, this guy's really great. And then I went back, and Russell was there too, so I talked with Russell, and he said, I told him, like, this guy's great. And I told him, like, yeah, I wouldn't mind being his intern. He said, okay. And so we walked back up to him, and Russell said, hey, Frank, I'd like to introduce you to your new intern. And I said, hi, I'm Douglas Katz.
Yeah.
And it just started that way. And like, I ended up walking him to his car, and we chatted and exchanged contact information. And believe it or not, he was putting on an event, as he was a motivational public speaker, life coach kind of deal, the same path that I'm going down. And he was putting on his event, and this was going to be like his second big event that he was putting on. And I was talking to him, and believe it or not, I was giving him tips on how to put on events and how to promote events, because I don't know if you know this, I put on we called it the One Peaceful World Mini Music Festival. And it was for 6 hours on a Saturday in April in 2018. And the purpose of it was to bring the community together and help make the world a better place through music, bring people together through music. And one thing we did was we went to like tons of businesses. We ended up getting around $4,000 in donations.
Wow.
Through like gift cards and like coupons and like other things that we could like raffle off. So our whole deal was that we were going to raffle off all these prizes, $4,000 worth, or give them away, somehow like give it to the attendees or raffle it off. And then the proceeds from that raffle were to help the homeless in Somerset County. And so we ended up making a donation to SHIP in Somerville, which handled all of like who's actually like it's much better to give the money to somebody already doing it than sometimes it is to try to do it yourself.
Oh yeah, no, that's a great organization. I actually did some work with them too. That's a great organization.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And so that was what we did. And I can't tell you how much I learned in that like month and a half, 2 months from when we were planning that event. It was mind-boggling how much I learned. I learned to be persistent, and you talk to somebody, say, yeah, show up, come back Wednesday at 2, and I'll be here. And then we could talk that and say, okay, so I'm working with another gentleman who's a 40-year-old dude named Rodney, real cool dude. And him and I would just drive around, and we'd come up with a schedule. We're doing this on this day, and we're hitting this town on this day. And then we would show back up to that business owner on Wednesday at 2, and he might say, come back. I'm sorry, you caught me at a bad time. Come back Friday at 3. So, okay. So we come back Friday at 3. And he said, oh, you guys must be serious. You keep showing up. And then the one that comes to mind was the guy that owns Verve in Somerville. And he ended up giving us $200 in gift certificates.
Oh.
Yeah. And like the dude's shoveling his own snow out in front of the business, and the guy's real down to earth.
Yeah, he's a good guy. That's a good guy.
He is a good guy.
Rick Stpierre, I believe. But that's how you pronounce his last name.
Oh, you know him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, but he was a figure when I was living in that area, so he was a good guy to meet and always made the time. But busy man, important guy in that.
Yeah, he was busy. But yeah, it was so cool. I met like a handful, a good dozen of people like him, who were quality people who want to help you out, like who saw that we were doing a good thing for the community. And we would show back up, we'd talk to them, we'd ask them what they could do. And, I learned so much in that process that when I was intern to Frank Abreu, I was giving him tips on how to put on his event. And this guy, he's in his 40s, and he's like working a legit job in healthcare. But like me being a 23, 24-year-old is helping him, is giving him advice. And I'm like, this is great.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think, if you're, when you're, I don't know, you mentioned that Rick Stpierre, that reminds me, I actually went up to him when I was, and this is all like when I was first starting, I did a lot of stories on people. I had no idea how to post them. I got a website and I just posted it on my website. You did
a story on me.
I did.
Yeah, it's on your Instagram.
I did. Right. Yeah. And I think, that was, I did that one. And then the longer pieces, I think the full profiles, I did a bunch of those. And I actually ran into Rick a few times. He was down, I was like, hey. And I really didn't have any limits. I didn't put any limits on myself. And he was kind of probably one of the most busiest, kind of most everyone in the town really kind of need him for a lot of things, at least as far as I know. And I went up to him and like, hey, I saw him again, out in front of his store, just looking at the town, and stopped. I think I was longboarding by. I was just like, hey, you can I write a story about you? He's like, yeah, sure. Here's my card, blah, blah, blah. And then I think it was like, he didn't really think I was serious. Because I come up in this, longboard and, and then I message him a day later or something, or less than that. I'm like, hey, when are you free to talk? I'll walk you through the process, what I do, but I'd love to write a full profile on you. And again, I'm not affiliated with, I'm not getting paid or anything for my work. So it's I'm a total freelance, but where is this guy? Who's he, right? He had no idea who I was. I'm sure he's seen me around town before riding my bike or my longboard, but now he's like, oh my gosh, this guy's getting serious. And then I see him outside of a coffee shop, and I'm like a month or two later, I'm like, are you ready? And he's like, for what? And I was kind of like, some people allowed me to write these stories about them when I was first starting out. And, you know, I think the importance when you're freelance is, you know, you can have your own platform, but you gotta start, you know, just start somewhere. You know, you don't have to get like these, you know, Joe Rogan you mentioned when we were chatting before. Just start with people that are local in your town. Don't try to go too big, and you know, don't worry about the financial aspect. Just try to master your craft in the beginning. And, you know, write as much as you can in my case, but whatever the craft is, just, you know, do as much as you can of it before you really start to branch out into other outlets, you know.
And like I mentioned this on our other conversation, but like it's interesting with that of making content and just starting out. Like I was always like a perfectionist, like as a kid, and like so many instances that would hold me back from doing what I wanted to do. Like I remember I've been throwing around the idea for a podcast for years, and like I was throwing around like another concept for a podcast, and I was trying to like figure out everything. Like, all right, so who am I going to reach out to for guests? If I'm a new podcast, are they even going to are they going to think it's a joke or what? Then how do I record the podcast? Then like, how do I come up with the like logo for it and the thumbnail? And I was trying to figure out all that stuff up front. And at the end of the day, I never started the podcast.
Yeah.
So like, there's also a big value in starting something before you have all the answers. And just kind of working through it and making mistakes. And, you know, believe it or not, mistakes are good because you learn something from it. They teach you something. So yeah, it's really valuable. I had to see my one friend, Chris Banish, put on his podcast. And I was on his podcast 2 or 3 times. And I got to see like, oh, so this is how it works. Okay. And then I would ask him questions about his process. And he was saying like, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. And I was like, really? Like, yeah, no, I was recording. I was just putting my phone up to my ear and talking into it as I'm on a walk on a windy day. And then I'd get home and like the whole podcast would be wind. That's all you'd hear. I was like, oh, really? Oh, wow. But he was like, yeah. And then I learned from that. So just so many things it's really cool to get the ball rolling on something you're interested in, to like work through the kinks, make mistakes, learn from it, grow and improve. And yeah, man, I think that's a major benefit to people. And like I don't think it's pursued enough within somebody's own kind of like their own individual like career that they're pushing for themselves. Not necessarily like trying to get a job. You can use it to get a job, but I've always kind of like, since my mind was expanded to entrepreneurship and owning your own business and being your own boss, like there's a lot more that comes with that than does come with being an employee, because you get benefits as you're an employee, you get a steady paycheck. There's trade-offs to it. But I don't think like many people really think that starting something for themselves is really like something valuable or something worth their time.
I guess it just depends on who you are. I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't think people actually know what it means when you go out, what they're going to encounter. You know, they live this life before, you know, with whether you're in the corporate field and you decide to go into business, or you'd never even start in the corporate field and you go into business, which was my case. But whichever route it is, like I think the thing they don't teach is you're gonna suffer. Like, you're gonna go through some terrible things. And, you know, depending on like the backing, I guess, you have, for business, you need a good financial cushion right there. With art, and if you pursuing the artistry stuff, it is, you need, I guess, you need more support. And I'm not necessarily financial support, but you need more people support. Business, it's about capital, in my opinion, but the artistry stuff, you need a good circle of people that are going to be able to pick you up when you go down. You need whatever craft it is, painting, music. You need in my case, writing. You need people in that industry that are in that craft that can walk you through those times. But it's, I just had a conversation with my friend, and I guess if you got another question after this, before I go, feel free. But I guess the point what I was telling him was, you gotta love being broke. You gotta love it. You gotta love whatever, crappy place you're living in. Living off the rice and beans and stuff in the beginning. I mean, if you don't love that, if you don't like genuinely like maybe now you might not, but you got to prepare yourself to love it, because you're not eating steak anymore. You're not going out to dinner anymore. You're not going out to drink. You're not going out for weekend drinks with friends anymore. Like, you're building your craft and you're building your masterpieces. Business, again, I can't speak fully for it, but you got to go in with solid, background with money. But with the artistry stuff, which I'm speaking of, is you got to get ready to embrace whatever that storm, man. And business, yeah, you got to embrace that too. But, I only can speak for what, I've been doing, and it's going to happen in the beginning. You're going to be going through some shit in the beginning. And, you might have to disappear for a little bit. You just got to prepare yourself. You got to tell the people around you what you're doing and what might happen. It may not, but it may happen. Most of the time it does. If you're fortunate enough, it won't. But get yourself ready for that. And that's the mistake I made. Is I didn't know what I was getting into. I had no idea I was about to face this stuff. And, it's going to happen. Tell the people in your circle, and get your mind ready for the war you're about to face before entering into that battlefield.
I love it. And that, those are some wise words, Tom. And I think that's a great note to end it on.
Appreciate it, man. I hope this was a good conversation for you and whoever listened to it. So I appreciate you having me on.
Oh yes, I'm excited, and I'm excited to have you on again.
Oh yeah, man, definitely let me know.
Time comes, and yeah, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
You got it, man.
All right, man. We'll catch up soon.
All right, dude. Have a good rest of the day, okay?
All right, you too, man.